This conference will now be recorded.
So once again, good morning and good evening, everyone. So in yesterday's session, it was a demo session yesterday where we discussed about what is performance testing at a high level, and also we have discussed about the LoadRunner architecture. Also, we have discussed about the some small practical example of how to record a script in Fusion, and at the same time, we have also seen the course content. So in today's session, so it's a kind of day one session. So where we'll discuss about what is performance testing, again, and what are the different types of performance testing we have, and what are the types of performance testing that we frequently do in the real time projects. Okay. So this is very important one in order to understand the different types of performance testing. Okay, so today and for next couple of days, we will be discussing in detail about the performance testing, fundamentals and important topics required prior to starting the practical sessions. Okay, so hope you guys are able to share see the screen as well. Okay, so again, let's take an example of a bank application only, any bank application. So generally, what is the time that many people access the bank application, right? Generally, morning 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. right? So generally, in the morning times, more number of people access the bank application, right? Isn't it? So let's say user one, user two, some of the users like 100 users or 100 people are accessing the bank application, right? So user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, likewise 100 users are accessing this bank application, let's say in the morning, like in the peak hours. Okay, so let's say 100 users are accessing this bank application. Okay, now users who are here, I have mentioned user 1, user 2, user 3 and so on till user 100 who are accessing the bank, who will be accessing the bank application, right? So users are nothing but people accessing bank application. All these users who logged in simultaneously are called concurrent users. Okay, all these users who logged in, okay, they are called concurrent users. Okay, they are called concurrent users. So what these users do, they access the bank application. Some of out of these, let's say out of these 100 users, some of them try to download the statement, some of them try to transfer money from one account to another account, some of them try to pay the credit card bill and so on, right? So all these 100 users, they'll be busy accessing the application, the overall application, right? So all these users are called concurrent users. They perform some action, okay, on the bank application. So so how when these 100 users max, max is 100 users, let's say, at the peak hours. What do you mean by peak hours? The time when most of the people access that application. So let's say peak hours is 10 a.m. or to 12 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. daily. So when these 100 users access the bank application during that time, what we have to do as a performance tester, when max number of users accessing that bank application, what is that we have to verify from our end is how that application is responding. Okay, how this application is responding when all 100 users access the application at a time, how the application is responding, how the pages are loading, okay, how fast the application is responding. Okay, so that means what are the response times. So the basic requirement what we have to verify is the response times. How these response times, okay, are coming up, like so whether they are within the SLA or not. What do you mean by SLA? Some service level agreement. Like, I told you that a generic industry standard for any response time is 2 seconds. Like, for example, if you click a link, okay, if you click a link and or if you click a button, the amount of time it should take to navigate to next page should not exceed 2 seconds. And that is the SLA, right? So whether all the response times are falling within the SLA or not, okay, that we have to verify, the basic thing. Okay, so that is all about performance testing at a high level. Okay, now generally, if you go to any interview, okay, they most probably they will not ask you what is performance testing, right? Because if you are attending the performance testing interview, okay, okay, the initial and if you're already having some work experience on performance testing, like 2 years or 3 years or 1 year or whatever it is, so the initial assumption of the interviewer will be this guy might already know what is performance testing for sure. Generally, that's the reason nobody will ask you what is performance testing. But if they ask you what is performance testing, sometimes you can directly give the textbook kind of definition like this, whatever you are seeing currently on the screen. So uh, generally, it's not mandatory to understand this, but as a performance tester, beginner, because we are learning this concepts all together once, right, for the first time. So it's better to understand the actual definition as well. Yes, we do know what is performance testing now. I told you, right? Testing the application. Yesterday I told you, verifying the application, okay, how fast the application is responding, how fast the pages are loading, okay, under some load. That is the performance testing. Okay, but if you see the textbook kind of definition here, so it says performance testing is testing an application for speed, stability, and scalability in production like environment and under virtual user load to meet non-functional requirements. So this definition looks a little bit complex to understand in one go. So, but what we'll do is we'll try to understand the terms that are present in the definition. Say speed, stability, scalability, production like environment, non-functional requirements, virtual user load, right? If you understand these terms first, then it will be easy to understand the overall definition. So let's understand the terms first, speed, stability, and scalability. So generally, performance testing is measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability. So first one is speed. So speed, again, it indicates how fast the application responds to your request with the expected or current load. Okay, in other words, response time should be within SLA, less than SLA. Okay, that's what I explained you. Generally, in generic terms, if the performance testing, okay, we will verify how fast the application is responding to your request with expected or current load. Okay, so if there is no load on the application, if there is no load on the application, then that will never be called as a performance testing. Okay, so there should be some load. How fast the application is responding to your request with expected or current load. In other words, response time should be within SLA. Okay, so speed is nothing but how fast the application is responding to your request with the expected or current load. Then see, actually, when performance testing in the initial days of performance testing, like a few years ago, like many years ago, performance testing was only measured with respect to speed. Okay, but later, due to changes in the way the projects are getting executed, the different project models coming to picture, along with performance testing being measured in terms of speed, it is also being measured in terms of stability and scalability as well. Stability and scalability as well. So stability, uh, it means the performance should not degrade even after using the application for a long time. Okay, so let's say you are using the application for let's say some 4 to 5 hours. Okay, 4 to 5 hours. So when you are using the application for 4 to 5 hours, the performance of the application should not degrade. So when I say performance should not degrade, it means whatever the response times that are coming in the initial 1 hour, okay, or two, the same should continue throughout the test. Like it should not be in the first 1 hour. In the first 1 hour, the response times, if it is 1.5 second, okay. Well, let's say response time is 1.5 second. In the let's say in the fifth hour, the response time should not be like 10 seconds, okay, or 5 seconds. It should not be like that. The stability should be there, throughout the 5 hours of test, or throughout the usage of application for 5 hours, the response time should be constant, or constant in sense, in a similar lines. It should follow the same trend, like 1.5 second, 2 second, 1.5 second, 1.5 second, 2 second, some trend like that. But it should not have some bigger differences in terms of bigger margin, like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, like that. The bigger margin should not be there. That means the performance should not degrade. Okay, so that is stability. Now, then you have scalability. So what do you mean by scalability? Application's ability to handle increasing user without performance degradation. So scalability is all about uh, you know increasing users considering future growth. So for example, today you are testing the application. Let's say today you are testing the application with 500 users. Okay, so tomorrow, let's say in near future, like 6 months or 1 year, you are assuming that your users will increase to 750. So currently, keeping the future growth in mind, we actually test for 750 users. We actually test with 750 users. So the performance should not degrade. When you are testing with 500 users, whatever the response times are coming up, the similar kind of response time should come when you are testing with 750 users as well. That means with the same infrastructure, with the same configuration you have with respect to the servers, the performance should not degrade. The performance should not degrade. So scalability is application's ability to handle increasing user without performance degradation. So these are the three terms: speed, stability, and scalability. Okay, the performance testing will be measured using these three terms. Now keep these three terms in mind: speed, stability, and scalability. I will relate these three terms with different types of performance testing now in some time. Okay, I will relate these three terms with different types of performance testing in some time now. Okay, so then moving on to the next slide. So this slide actually it is important, but I will explain you maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, because I need more time to explain about what is app server, what is what is web server, what is load balancer, what is app server and all, what is DB server and all. So uh, this diagram was this slide is present here considering the textbook, one of the term included in the definition, production like environment. So I will cover this tomorrow definitely for sure. So for time being, we will directly move on to different types of performance testing. So in the why the previous slide it is actually supposed to be for tomorrow or day after tomorrow, but somehow the slide is there. So we will discuss that tomorrow or day after tomorrow. It's a separate session actually. So now we know what is actually we know what is performance testing. So we will understand types of performance testing now. So actually there are a couple of other terms like non-functional requirements also from the definition, for which we have a separate session again. So so we will see that. Okay, so because we understood the term speed, stability, and scalability, which are very important, okay, from the definition point of view. So we will discuss these types of performance testing today, okay, and relate with those three terms. So these are the basic, not basic, these are the important ones: the load test, stress test, load testing, stress testing, endurance test, scalability test, volume test, failover test. Okay, so let's discuss each one of these now. Okay, and understand. And also I will tell you what are the frequent types of tests that we do in our real-time projects as well. So let's discuss the first one, that is the load test. So here, um, basically, load test, we have to relate the term speed with this particular type of test. Just now we have discussed the term speed, right? So load test will relate to the term speed. So load test will ensure that the application can handle the expected load. The application can handle, one second. Load test will ensure that the application can handle the expected load. Okay, expected load. So what do you mean by that? That means here, as part of the load test, we will be verifying how fast the application is responding, how fast the pages are loading under some expected load. Under some expected load. So expected load can be something like 100 users, 300 users, 500 users, and so on. Okay. Now you might ask me a question: who will give you this 500 or 200 or 300 number to us? Like, who will tell us, like, with how many users we have to test an application, or with how many users we have to load test an application? Who will tell us this number, or who will provide this number? Okay, so in real time, uh, either, yes, Sonia, yeah, either client will provide us, okay, either client will provide us, okay, or the application team. Okay, in fact, the client or the application team can provide us. The application team, in sense, the entire development team and the stakeholders. Or you have a business analyst also, right? Sometimes instead of client, BA will provide us, the business analyst will provide us the 300 with how many users we have to test the application. Okay, so that number will be provided to us by the client or business analyst or the application team themselves. So load test is all about how fast the application is responding, how fast the pages are loading under some load. Okay, under some load. That load is nothing but 500 users, 100 users, and so on. The next one is the next important one is stress testing. Again, see, and one more important thing is load test will be done for 1 hour. So when you execute a load test, yes, we do execute only for 1 hour. Okay, that means you start a test around 9 a.m. You will run till 10 a.m. Actually, there is a concept called ramp up and ramp down, which we will discuss later. But actually, for time being, let's consider, assume that, or not assume, think that the load test will done only for 1 hour. Okay, excluding ramp up and ramp down. Actually, the load test will be executed only for 1 hour only. Okay, so, and this is the base of all the tests. So in real-time projects also, the very first test what you do is the load test only. Without performing load test, you will not go or proceed further to other types of testing. Okay, so if your load test is not successful, let's say for some reason your load test has failed completely, then there is no point in executing the remaining types of tests. So the load test should be successful in order for you to go ahead and execute all other types of tests. Okay, so this is a very important one, because this is a base test for all other types of tests. Okay, for how many hours we will run this? For 1 hour. Who will give the expected load? Client or business analyst or application team. Okay, then we have something called stress testing. Okay, so here you see stress test is conducted by increasing the user load gradually until application breaks. So I will tell you one example here. Let's say there is a hotel, or not hotel. Let's say there is a restaurant. Okay, with 5 tables. With how many tables? Let's say there is a restaurant with 5 tables. Now 5 tables. Restaurant with 5 tables, and there is what can I say? There is a waiter or server or helper, okay, or whatever it is. A person to handle these 5 tables. Okay, to handle these 5 tables. Like when I say I handle these 5 tables, so the person is responsible to take the order from all the customers from of these 5 tables and deliver the food on the table. Okay, for all these guys. Now uh, the hotel, the restaurant is running fine. There is a huge demand, and and because of that demand, now the hotel or the restaurant owner has decided to increase the number of tables from 5 to 7. Now there are 7 tables. Now there are 7 tables. Now the same helper who was looking at who was taking care of 5 tables, now he is managing 7 tables. That means for now all the 7 tables he is taking the order, food order, and he is delivering the food for them, like let's say in 15-20 minutes. Okay, now again there is a huge demand. Now the restaurant owner has decided to increase the number of tables from 7 to 9. 9 tables. Due to huge demand, the owner increased the number of tables from 7 to 9. Now this helper who was managing to take the orders and deliver the food for 7 tables here. Now he is still able to manage to take the orders, okay, and deliver the food, but the amount of time he is taking to deliver the food has increased from, let's say, from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Now, because the number of orders have increased, number of tables have increased. Now, the helper is taking more time to take the order and deliver the food. Because yes, when tables are more, obviously only one helper, definitely the amount of time it will increase. In order for him to deliver, for him or to deliver or the food, right? So it will definitely increase the time. So here, when the number of tables increase from 7 to 9, uh, the amount of time the helper was taking increased from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Now the demand was still continuing, and the owner has decided to increase the number of tables from 9 to 11 tables. Okay, let's say 9 to 11 tables. Now this helper, when he observed that the number of tables has increased from 9 to 11, then he thought that no, I cannot do anymore. I cannot support these 11 tables anymore. No, no. He said no, I cannot take orders from all the 11 tables. It will be overburden on him, that he'll not be able to deliver the food at all. He'll not be able to manage all the 11 tables at all. So he decided to quit. He said, no, I cannot do this, and he quit. He left it. He left the work. He quit. Okay, he's no more taking care of these 11 tables. Okay, that means at some point of time, he's the max he could deliver. He exceeded that. Okay, at some point of time, whatever the max he could deliver, he exceeded. The person exceeded, and from then on, he could not deliver the food at all. He said, "Yeah, no, it's done. I cannot take more. I cannot do more work here. It's done." He said, "No, I cannot take more load. Okay, from now on, it's done." So, considering the same thing, okay, in your applications also, let's say for the same bank application. So here also, if you are doing a stress test, we gradually increasing the load. We gradually increase the load. Let's say first we'll test with 100 users. Okay. Let's say we'll first test with 100 users, and then we'll test with 500, okay, or 300 or 500, then we'll increase to 800, then we'll increase to 1000, and see where it is breaking, and see where it is breaking. So what will happen when we keep on stressing the system by increasing the number of users? At some point of time, you will see a drastic increase in terms of response times. That means the response times will be huge. Why? Because the stress is more on the application. The amount of time the application takes to respond will be high now. There will be a definite performance degradation now, okay, at some point. Now, after seeing some high response times, at some point of time further, the application will stop responding. That means you will see continuous errors. You will see continuous errors. Okay, so now why do we perform this test is, when we keep on applying some stress on the application to obtain some breaking point or saturation point, where we will tell the client that, hey, your application with the current configurations will be able to support only, let's say, 500 applications or 800 applications. So your application will break when the users reach 1000. That's what you will tell the client. That's what you will tell the client. You will tell for how many users the application will support perfectly, and then for how many users the application will might have some high response times. Then for how many users the application might stop responding completely. So these information you will provide to client. So to understand this, we will do stress testing. Okay, so hope you guys understood what is stress testing. Okay, we continuously increase the load. We'll apply the load, okay, continuously. That means a kind of stress, okay, and see what's happening, okay, and see what's happening. And then the next test is endurance or soak or duration. In some projects they call it as endurance test. In some projects they call it as soak test. In some projects or companies they call it as duration test. Okay, so all three are same. All three are same. Now, why do we perform this test? Why do we perform this test? Is to test the stability. To test the stability. You see, testing for stability is nothing but endurance or soak test. To keep it simple, testing for stability is called, okay, is nothing but endurance or soak test. So what do you mean by stability? I told you, right, when we were discussing the term stability a few minutes ago, I told that basically we will run the application for, let's say, 3 hours or 5 hours and see how the application is performing. The performance should not degrade, right? That's the important one. That's the important point. The performance should not degrade. So basically, we will run the test for, let's say, 3 hours, this endurance test, 5 hours, okay, 8 hours, 1 day, 3 days, 5 days also. Okay, now you might ask me, will the test really run for 3 days or 5 days? Or yes, there are very few applications, okay, which run for 3 days or 5 days also. Depends on the project also, project complexity and project architecture, project requirement, and so on. But the basic endurance test we run is for 3 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours. Okay, the basic endurance test we run is for 3 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours. So what is the goal, or what is the motto of this is? So when you say you're running the test with for 5 hours or 8 hours, so how the application is performing in the first 1 hour, how the application is performing in the second 1 hour, okay, how the application is responding in the third hour, like that you have to see how the application is responding. And the overall motto is that in the entire execution duration, the performance should not degrade. The performance should be constant. Okay, so in the first 1 hour, the response time is 1 second. In the third hour, the response time is 10 seconds. No, it should not be like that. The performance should not degrade. The performance should not degrade. Okay, so it should have it should show some stability. Okay, in terms of performance, in terms of response times. Okay, So why do we test this? Why do we actually test for 3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours is in terms to for stability. Okay, in order I told you, right, for verifying the performance degradation in terms of response times. Along with that, actually, the purpose of this test is to identify problem performance bottlenecks like memory leaks, etc. Like memory leaks, etc. What do you mean by this memory leaks? It's a big concept. We will discuss in our upcoming session in detail, because if I explain now, the guys coming from non-IT might not understand it completely. Okay, so as of now, what we'll understand is this endurance or soak, a duration test, is a type of performance testing done for testing its stability. Okay, and we will run this test for 3 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours or 1 day or so on. Okay, we will see how the response we'll see the response times in the one first hour, third hour, fifth hour, and so on. Okay, and we'll also see for any memory leak issues or something like that. Okay, mostly is memory leak issues. So this is about endurance test. So what is memory leak? I'll explain you later. Even though the slide has some points with respect to that, but we'll discuss later. Okay, because now nobody knows what is heap memory, especially guys coming new to who are new to your IT, right? So you guys don't know what is heap memory and so on. So better to discuss it in our upcoming sessions. So the next one is yes, duration is executed for 3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, 1 day, so on. So the next one is the scalability. So this again, as the name suggests, this is referring to the term scalability. As I said, this is nothing but testing the application for for future requirement. Okay, considering future growth. Okay, test is performed under the user load, considering the growth of the application under down the years. Okay, that means, let's say today, today you are performing a load test with 500 users. Today, the expected or current load is 500 users. Now, the client might assume that in next 6 months or 1 year, the number of people accessing the application might grow by 50%. What do you mean by 50% of 500? That is 250. 50 plus 250 is 750. Now, considering the future growth, we will test the application with 750 users now itself. We will test the application with 750 users now itself. Okay, that's all about scalability test. Okay, here also we will see how the application is responding, whether the application is supporting the increase in number of users or not. Okay, so it's all about future growth. So this scalability test. So this is also done for 1 hour only. This test is also executed for 1 hour only, but with more number of users, than the load test. Okay. Um, okay. Then we have one more test called volume test. So guys, this is more of a load test only. Okay, this is a kind of a load test only. Exactly load test only. Like we will do it for 1 hour, the same load as load test only. But the only difference is, but the only difference is, but the only difference is in terms of data being present in database. Data being present in database. So let's say in currently in your database you have 1 lakh records. When you are performing a load test, let's say you have 1 lakh records. Okay, now your application is having 1 lakh records. Now let's say people are using your application for people started using your application, let's say for 1 year or 2 years. Now let's say after 1 year or 2 years, because people already started using your application, the number of records in database increased from 1 lakh to, let's say, 2 lakh or 3 lakh or 4 lakh, whatever it is. The records in database increased from 1 lakh to 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs. Now, how the application is responding when there is a huge amount of data in database. How the application is responding when there is a huge amount of data in the database, because the same queries, the same SQL queries will access the database, and we have to focus more on how these queries are running. We have to focus more on how these queries are running, how the application is performing. Are there any long running queries? When I say long running queries, if you hit the query, you know query, right? So basically a SQL query like select star from employee. You might have learned in college days as well. Select star from employee is a SQL query. So some queries like that, how those queries might be working. Okay, whether is there any long running queries, that means if a query is taking more time to get the response from database. So so the motto of this test is to um, verify how the application is responding when there are huge number of records in database. So how do you test this? So keeping future growth in mind, I mean, when I say future growth in terms of number of records in database, now itself, we will intentionally load those additional number of records. For example, currently there are 1 lakh records in DB, and assuming after 1 year there will be 4 lakh records. So currently the test would be done with 4 lakh records of data. Now who will insert these 4 lakhs records of data into database? Who will insert these 4 lakhs records of data into database intentionally? We have to take the help of the application team, the development team, or the database administrator. Okay, so they will help us in loading these three additional 3 lakh data, okay, or 2 lakh or 3 lakh, whatever it is, the data into the database intentionally, and see, and then we will be running a load test. When you have this huge amount of data in the database, populated in the database, then you will run the load test, and then you will see how the application is responding, how those queries are running. Okay, is there any impact on the application? If there is huge amount of data in the database, is there any impact on the application response times? So that is all about volume test. Okay, this also will be done for 1 hour only, because it's a load test only. Exactly, it is load test only. The only change is there will, in terms of huge amount of data inserted into database records. That's it. Huge amount of records inserted into database. That's it. That's the only difference. Okay. So these are the 5 different types of tests we have. And there is one more test called failover test, which I'll explain you tomorrow, because that is more related to this. I have to explain in terms of application servers, web servers, and so on. Okay, and downtime and so on. So I will park that I'll park that concept called failover testing, which is very very uh, famous in the recent times. What is failover testing? So nowadays we all know that projects are moving to agile, and they don't want their application to go down for a minute also, for not even for a minute, for a second also, right? So that's how they are looking at their applications. So how this failover test helps us? Okay, we will see in our upcoming sessions, like tomorrow or day after tomorrow, because we have a separate session to understand these servers and all, right? So I will explain you at that point of time. So basically, from these types of tests, so the frequent ones that we will be executing in our day-to-day work, in our real-time projects, are load test, endurance test, and scalability test. These are the frequent ones which we perform in our day-to-day project activities. When they ask you to test, go for a stress test, you have to do it. When they ask you to go for a volume test, we have to do it. Okay, so that's very rare. Okay, rare in sense, not every release or something like that. So the most frequently ones is load test, endurance test, scalability test. And out of these three also, the very most frequent test is load test, because without this we will not be able to do all other types of tests. Okay, so all these types of tests, whatever I've told you now, okay, whatever I've told you, like load test, stress test, endurance test, scalability test, these tests we will see in practicals also. So how to create a scenario for a load test, how to create a scenario for stress test, how to create a scenario for endurance test, how to create a scenario for a scalability test. How do you run it? Yes, we will practically run this load test. We will practically run this load test, and I will tell you how to create a scenarios for endurance test and scalability test, stress test also. Okay, so we will see all those things in practicals also. Now you can post your questions, okay, because this is only day one. I just don't want to make it complex, just want to explain you the different types of testing at a high level. Okay, so hope you guys understood at a very high level what are the different types of testing we have, and for how many hours we'll do, who will give the data, and so on. Okay, in the upcoming sessions we will discuss everything in detail again, as and when the topic related topic comes, and we'll be seeing all these things in practicals also again. So now you can post your questions, whatever the questions you have, because some of you guys might have joined today only. You might have missed yesterday's demo session. So those who missed yesterday's demo session, I request you to go back and go through the recorded session of the demo, yesterday's demo session, so that you'll get more clarity of what is this course all about, and what is this course content and course duration and some of the other questions you have. And if you have any other questions, you can post. Yes, is there any priority on hierarchy? Yes, the very first priority is load test only. So without performing load test, we will not go for other tests. That's the priority one. Okay, it will give us some confidence, like, oh, hey, at least the application is good to go for the 100% the load test, right? We can assure client that, hey, your application will definitely support at least a load test, 100% load test, like whatever the number they are giving, right? 500 users, 300 users. Yes, your application is supporting at least these numbers. We are giving an assurance to them. So remaining all other types of tests we will definitely do, but for those the load test should be a successful one first of all. Load test we are just running for 500 users or 300 users. Only one in the entire 1 hour. Let's say the load test is for 1 hour, right? So for the entire 1 hour we will run the load test with the same number. Like it could be 300 users or 500 users. We will run the entire load test with the number given by client, with the expected load given by client. Okay, the 300 users or 500 users or 1000 users, whatever it may be. We will run the test for the entire 1 hour. But stress test, we keep on increasing the users. Like we start with 100 users, we increase to 500, we increase to 1000, we increase to 200, we increase to 1500, like that. Okay, we'll keep on increasing until the application breaks. Okay, so that's how it is different from load test. And there is the way we create a scenario, the way we schedule our scenario is different. Okay, so it's all about scheduling your test, how you create your test, how you want your test to be executed. That's how each and every type of testing, performance testing, is differentiated. Okay, so I will show you in practicals also how to configure these tests, how to run a load test. Okay, we will actually run a load test and see how the results are coming. Okay, so we'll run the load test for 1 hour for sure in our practical sessions. Stress test, we can confine it to 1 hour also. Like first 15 minutes we can run with 100 users. Next 15 minutes you can run with 300 users. Next 15 minutes you can run with 500 users. The next 15 minutes you can run with 800 users. Likewise, for every 15 minutes you can gradually increase the load. Okay, so you can run the stress test also in 1 hour also, and you can exceed it. You can go beyond 1 hour and see until how many users, it is supporting. It's all about requirements. Sometimes it's a project specific also. The client will tell you how to run. The client will tell you when to increase the load. The client will only tell you when to increase and when to continue, for how much time to continue. Okay, for example, uh, the client might tell you, like, uh, let's say the client will tell you that, hey, for the first 15 minutes, uh, okay, for the first 15 minutes, run the test with 200 users. Okay, next you will say next 30 minutes run with let's say 300 users or 200 users or 300 users. Okay, next say the next 30 minutes run with 500 users. So client will only tell you these numbers. So when client tell you these numbers, like, or the application team tell you these numbers, then you have to create a scenario like that. You have to create a scenario like that. The load. Okay. One second. How many hours will? Okay. What would be the load for endurance test? The load for endurance test. Okay. It will be actually good question. Um, it will be in some projects it will be 100% load only. In some projects it will be 100% load only. But in some projects it will be 75% of the load test. So for example, load test is uh, load test we have done with, let's say, 400 users. So in some projects, endurance test will be done with 400 users only. Okay, and in some projects, most of the projects, in fact, most of the projects will be done with 75% of load. 75%. That means that is 300 users. What is 75% of 400? 300 users, right? So endurance test will be done with 100% load in some projects. In most of the other projects, it will be done with 75% of the load. Okay, so that is all about the endurance test load. Okay, so do you guys have any questions with respect to uh, any other topic, like you know? Okay, a bottleneck. A bottleneck, basically in performance testing terminology, like, let's say if you find any issue. Okay, let's say you find any issue. Let's say the response times are increasing from actually it was supposed to be less than 2 seconds, but it has increased to 5 seconds or 10 seconds. That's an issue, right? So in performance testing terminology, we call these issues as bottlenecks. We call these issues as bottlenecks. So when you run a performance test, you will find the bottlenecks. You will find the bottlenecks. That means you find the issues. So the more number of bottlenecks you find, okay, the better you tested the application, the better you performance tested the application. Yes, during depends on the project, like during festivals and all, you are say yes, yeah, that the load will be more. Yes, for that purpose only we will do a stress test, and we will do stress test and scalability test. Okay, so scalability test is keeping future growth in mind. Keeping future growth in mind. Okay, keeping future growth in mind. We will test the application now itself, right? So let's say the in next 3 months or 6 months, the number of users might increase from, let's say, from 500 to 1000. Now itself we are testing with 1000 only, right? So I'll just in the same like same wise, keeping that future trend, considering the festival sale or whatever it is, considering the number of users might increase. Okay, they will increase the servers and all in the backend, and we will see that like it's a kind of stress test only, like they keep on increasing the users, and at the peak time they will test with max number of users. They will have so many servers in the backend. Okay, so we have to understand what is a server, how is it completely related to the performance. Okay, performance test. Okay, so when we correlate the servers and performance test, I will tell you how they handle the festivals and all, how they handle the servers, and with how many users they will test and so on. For the next uh, class, can you show some client requirements and determine which test to perform? Yes, yes, we will do it practicals, right? This is just a theoretical scenario. So we have a complete practical sessions for that, right? So I will give you the complete documentation. I will tell you how all the practical scenarios, like load test, what is the requirement, how to test it, how to configure a scenario. Okay. endurance test, how to configure a scenario directly in controller only. I will show you how to configure a scenario, how the requirement will be, based on requirement how we have to create a scenario. So everything I will show you practically only. How to choose system configuration. See, system configuration of the performance testing machine. So see the two things. One is Abhijit. One is configuration of application server machine. Then second one is configuration of load generator machine, like from the machine from where you are triggering the load or generating the load. So what is that machine you are referring to? Are you referring to the application server machine, or are you referring to the load generator machine? Load generator machine, see, basically when you purchase a license, see, every company will purchase some licenses, right, for the load runner, because it's a license tool. When they purchase a license, uh, they in they will leverage the systems, the load generator machines. So based on the company requirement, based on the company requirement. So let's say if it's a very big MNC, let's say I'm just giving some example. Let's say it's a very big MNC. They might have some, let's say 50 to 100 load generator machines. Okay, very basic. 50 to 100 load generator machines they will have. Each load generator will have some good configurations like 32 GB RAM and whatever it is, etc. And some high configurations, some good high CPU, high processing CPUs. Okay, and each load generator machine can support, server machine can support, let's say up to 5,000 users or more than that. Okay, so it depends on what type of license you have, how many machines you configured, what is the configuration of it. Okay, and it can each load generator machine can support up to 5,000 users, and it depends on protocol also. It depends on protocol also. What is protocol we haven't discussed. So that's the reason I'm not able to explain you more. But we have sessions in day after tomorrow or something like that where I'll explain you what is protocol and all. So at that time I'll tell you. And in our upcoming sessions also we have a discussion for this, like which protocol can support how many users. Okay, so which protocol will take more number of users. Okay, will take more memory and so on. So in load generator machines, basically, if it is a web protocol like whatever we have discussed in yesterday's demo session, right? If that is a protocol, if it's a good server LG machine, highly configured, it will definitely support a minimum of 5,000 users. Minimum of 5,000 users it will support. Okay. Any other questions? If we get more response time while testing, what will we do? Uh, so if you get more response time while testing, we have to, as a performance tester, we have to find out where it is going wrong. Where it is going wrong. Okay. Our first thing is, what are the transactions that are getting high response times. For example, let's say you are testing a bank application, and one of the scenario you are testing is downloading bank statement. Scenario is download bank statement is the scenario. And in this scenario, what are the different steps you have? First, you will launch the application, right? First, you will launch the application. You will launch application, right? Second thing is you will log in. Third thing is you will navigate to your account. Okay. Fourth thing is maybe you will select the date range. Okay, from when to when you want the statement. Maybe fifth step you will click on download statement button. You will click on download statement button. Okay, and sixth one is you log out. So these are the possible steps that we have for a download bank statement scenario, right? Now we have to understand which transaction, each step here we call it as a transaction in our performance testing terminology. Whatever the step I mentioned here, okay, each step is called a transaction. So each transaction or which transaction is taking more time, okay, which transaction got more response time. So let's say login is taking login, we are getting more response time. Login, we are getting more response time. So when login is when we are getting high response times for login, we have to understand what is going wrong. Okay, for this we need to understand the application architecture as well, how the architecture is designed. For example, you entered username and password and you click on login button. When you click on login button, what is happening in the backend? What is happening in the backend? So for that, uh, to understand in detail about what is happening in the backend, we use APM tools like AppDynamics or Dynatrace to see what is exactly happening when you click on login button. Okay, and then in the backend APM tool, we will be able to see what is the method or what is the query that is running slow, because of which you are getting high response times. So we will take that slow method or long running query and we will give it to developer saying that, hey, this login transaction is taking some getting high response times because of this slow so and so slow method or slow query. Okay, like that we have to analyze where it's going wrong, what is this slow method, what is this long running query, and so on. We have to give the further information to developer for fixing the issue. Okay, so as a performance tester, we have to provide all our observations clearly, why probably what could be the reason for high response time also. Okay, so for that we will definitely take the help of APM tool. It can be AppDynamics or it can be Dynatrace or so on. Okay, is load generator and Vugen are same? See, Vugen is one of the component. Okay, its name is Vugen, but actually it is designed to develop the scripts or record and replay the scripts or enhance the scripts and make your scripting. Load generator machines are different. Load generator machines are normal machines only, like the server machines only. They are highly configured, like with good RAM, good CPU, and so on, so that it will support more number of users. So let's say you are running a test with 100 users for same web HTTP web protocol. So let's say one user is taking some, let's say some 50 MB of memory. Just a random guess, random number I'm giving, 50 MB of memory. So let's how much memory 100 users will take. 100 into 50, 5000 MB, 5000 MB. Okay, 5000 MB of memory the 100 users will take. Okay, so depending on the RAM memory configuration and all, it will support. Either we have to add one more load generator or something. Depending on the memory, we will add one more load generator also while running the test. So I will provide you further details on this, like the memory footprint, which protocol will take how much of memory footprint, and all these things in our upcoming sessions. It's too early to discuss those concepts. Okay, one moment, guys. It's too early to discuss all those things, but definitely we will cover all those things. Yes, Dia, as a load tester, yeah, we need to learn APM tool as well? Yes. That's the reason in this course, at the end of this course, we have 1 or 2 sessions for learning APM tool also, AppDynamics. I will tell you clearly, as now just now I told you, right? We will fetch what is the slow method, what is the long running query, and give it to developer, right? I will show you in live, like in practical session, AppDynamics. How do you get the data? How do you fetch various metrics? What are the other different metrics that we actually fetch from the APM tool? Okay, how do you collate all those metrics and send, and update the client or development team, okay, to fix the issue? Okay. It's so that's how it is there, Shiva. Like it's coming from the tool itself. Okay, it's coming from the component, the vendor itself. Do we need to know Dynatrace and APM tool? See, we need to know at least one APM tool for our to attend any interview and so on nowadays. So you need to know at least one APM tool. That's the reason we are covering AppDynamics as part of this course. Ayush, how to get familiar with the error codes? Yeah, we will discuss in practicals because the practicals hasn't started, right? So there are different error codes like 200, 300, 400, 500, 502, 405, so on. So many error codes are there. Uh, but we should be familiar with at least the important ones. Okay. So the frequently observed ones. So I will explain you what are the frequent ones, when we will get it. So how to analyze that error code. Okay, whether it's a script issue or application issue. Okay, how to analyze that. Everything we'll discuss in detail. Uh, so let me go through the questions one by one again. I think I have answered almost all questions. So any other questions? See, okay. Okay, someone has pinged me separately. What is the difference between stress and scalability except for duration? See, basically, stress test is means we are continuously, applying the stress. Like we are continuously increasing the stress here. Okay, like it's used to, like suddenly we are applying some load, we are increasing the load, like applying some stress, and we are testing the behavior of the application. But in scalability, we will not apply the stress, continuously or immediately. The load will be, might not be in one go, like stress test continuously. Considering the future growth, like we might increase the load, let's say from, from 50, sorry, from, what you can say, let's say the load test is 500 users. The scalability test we might run it with 750 or 1000 users, keeping the future growth in mind. So it doesn't mean that we continuously stress the system. Okay, stress test is all about stressing the system continuously. Okay, some heavy loads we will put. Okay, unlike in the scalability test, the load will not be heavy at a time. Continuously will not stress it. Okay, so basically, what happens is, uh, why we do this stress test is to see how the application is handling the uh, abnormal stress also. Like suddenly, like I told you, right? First 15 minutes I will run with 200 users. Next 30 minutes I'll add 300. Next 30 minutes I'll add 500. So like that, continuously we'll keep on applying the stress and see how, when the load is varied, okay, suddenly how the application is responding. How the application is responding. Okay, and one more thing is, basically, we will see some saturation point. The main objective is to find out some saturation point or breaking point for stress testing. Okay, and also, in the scalability test, actually, one more difference is, um, basically we will target to see more of how the CPUs and backend memories are working, showing up. Like the memory part, the CPU memory, the heap memory, and the backend memories, how they are showing up. Okay, we'll be concentrating more on this, on these in the scalability test. But in stress test, it's more about when the application is breaking. What is that breaking point? Obtaining the breaking point is our target. Okay, so we'll concentrate more on that. So these are some of the differences. Okay, so from stress test and scalability test. So when we configure those type of tests, right, in controller or performance center, you'll more understand, you'll better understand when we configure it practically. Okay, so we will cover that as well in our practical sessions, how to configure different types of tests, right, in controller. So that point of time, when you configure, based on the configuration only, you will understand how it is different. Might be depending on project, Subhash. There might be, might not be different configurations in sense. It depends on the project requirement. It definitely depends on the project requirement. But what is the generic funda is about load performance testing is whatever the configurations you have in production, whatever the configurations you have in production, same configuration should be present in the performance testing environment wherever you are doing the performance testing, right? So same configuration should be present in that environment also. Okay, that is the expected one, that is the expected comparison. So when you can compare an apple to an apple only, right? So like that only, whatever the configuration you have in production, the same configuration you should be having in the performance testing environment only. Then only the test, whatever the test you do, the results, the whatever the results you get, the accurate results, you can assure client with those results. Okay. So when you are increasing the load, that means, so Rasika, so when you are increasing the users, that means obviously the number of transactions or the number of requests going to server are also increased, right? So both are directly proportional. So when you are increasing the load, obviously the requests or hits that are going to server will increase. Okay, both are directly proportional. Yes, we are increasing the load means we are increasing the users. Obviously, when we increase the users, the number of hits or the number of transactions will increase. Right. So for example, if 100 users, let's say if 100 users are running now, and the number of hits are going to server are, let's say, some five some per minute, let's say per minute, let's say some 25 transactions per minute or 25 hits per minute. Okay, let's say if 200 people are 200 people are using the application, obviously the hits will increase. Let's say some 50 hits, okay, in a minute, right? So when the users increase, the hits or the requests going to server will also increase. The transactions will also increase. Okay, so everything we'll discuss in detail. Okay, because this is very day one, and guys who are coming from non-IT background also, they might get confused, right? Because if I keep on using the terms, right, definitely they might get confused. But I'll take all your questions. Okay, the advanced questions, whatever you're asking, I'll definitely take all these questions and answer all of them in our upcoming sessions for sure. Or else if it is very urgent for you, because if you want to know on priority or for some project requirement or something like that, you can reach out to me one to one. I will call you separately and explain everything in detail. Okay, because if you keep on discussing the advanced topics, like the others might get confused, like the beginners who are very new to performance testing, who are not aware of these hits, transactions per hour, hits, and all those things, right? Yes, whatever you told, right? in some scenarios we will keep same number of users, and we can increase the number of transactions also. For example, in one test, but generally that is not the requirement. 100 users, what you said is 1000 transactions, then 100 users, uh, then you, let's say some 1500 transactions you want to achieve, or 200 2000 transactions, whatever it is. Yes, possible. With same 100 users you can achieve 1500 also. So for that you need to understand the concept of pacing and think time. Okay, so we have to implement the concept of pacing and think time then. So we will discuss all these things in our upcoming sessions, so because it's a very day one. So any generic questions you have, anything you want to know about this course? Any other questions, especially non-IT guys? And one more thing, who have joined today, as I told you in yesterday's demo session, there will be a separate session for non-IT guys to understand the terms and terminologies of performance testing, to get them familiar with respect to performance testing, and everyone can join that session. I will tell you the date and time very soon. Probably in in next 1 week we will have that additional session. Okay, so the guys who have registered for the course and who are new to IT, and also everyone in the group will get that invite, separate invite. Okay, so that session is mainly targeted for non-IT guys actually. Okay, to cope up with the you know the course. Okay, so yeah, it's 15 minutes past 9. Okay. Any other questions? So if there are no more questions, I'm stopping the session for today.